Okay, I believe all the metadata is updated on all of my various streaming services. Although it looks like YouTube's Freddy Fish. Do I have Freddy Fish? Do you guys want me to play Freddy Fish instead? I just updated the metadata. Come on, Freddy Fish. I don't even have it. You know what? I'll buy it and we'll play next time. $7. But Twitch, I believe, says it's updated, but YouTube is saying. Oh no, okay. YouTube says it's updated too now. Okay, so we should be good. Where was it? Here it is. Sad story of Emmeline. Emmeline. That's a weird spelling. Emmeline Burns. Hopefully, because it's a visual novel, I can relax my hand a little bit. Interesting UI. No options, so let's go with new game, unless there's a secret thing here. Preferences. So full screen. My face is a weird spelling. It would be weird to spell things with my face. I agree with that. I have to concede that point. My name is Tom Andrews and I am a victim of identity theft. I already got an achievement. It's all Aunt Catherine's fault, of course. Most things are according to Mum. Stealing Mum's favorite dress when they were both schoolgirls was bad enough, but stealing the name of her first and only daughter? Now that's a loan not many of us can sink to within our lifetimes. My name was supposed to be Amelia. Mum has always loved the name Amelia, though I don't know why. She wanted to call me Amelia if I was a girl, and Thomas if I was a boy, after her father. And then Aunt Catherine ruined everything. Aunt Catherine fell pregnant with her first child around the same time my mom found out she was going to have me. Their due dates were also very similar, only a few weeks apart. Though Mom and Aunt Catherine have never been particularly close, they spent more time together during their twin pregnancies than they had done over the last decade. Yeah, going for 100% here. They attended the same hospital for their checkup and went to the same support group at the Civic Center, and their rocky relationship improved over complaints about bladder infections, morning sickness, and uncontrollable cravings for anchovies, Mum, or smoked cheese. Aunt Catherine. I already like Aunt Catherine more than I like Mum. And then Aunt Catherine stole my name. Aunt Catherine is 1 year younger than my mum, but she always got things first. That's what Mum told me. She was the first to have a period, to pierce her ears, to have a serious boyfriend. She was the first to have a baby too. A baby girl. A girl called Amelia. Mum didn't know what to do having her dream name stolen away from her so suddenly. She had half a month to confront Aunt Catherine about it, but didn't in the end. She only just began to repair her relationship with her sister and she didn't want to ruin it. Why can't both kids be called Amelia? It doesn't seem like that big a deal. But she was still annoyed. I mean, I get that she's annoyed. Like, it's kind of an asshole thing to do, right? If you're like, oh, I'm gonna name my kid Amelia, and then your sister or is like, oh, really? Well, I'm gonna name my kid Amelia. She still is. Spoken like a man. I don't know which comment that's in reference to because I made a whole bunch of comments there. Mom could have called me Amelia anyway. Yeah, see? But the name didn't feel special to her anymore. Not when Aunt Catherine had used it. In the end, after much deliberation, Mom decided to go with her second option, Thomas. Since I was a girl, however, Thomas was out of the question. Was there a female variant of Thomason? Thomasina? Thomasandria? Thomasetta? Maybe not. There was Toma, however. Toma Andrews. And that's how I got my name. That might explain why I don't like it very much. My name isn't really mine. Like clothes that are 2 sizes too big, it doesn't fit me properly. It never has. That's because it was never intended for me. If I had been called Amelia, would my life be any different? Would it change who I am? I don't know, because I've never been an Amelia. I'm just Toma, the weird girl with the weird name. And my name isn't the only weird thing about me. Ever since I can remember, my mom has been obsessed with family history. She says it's like playing detective, peeking back into the past with only fragments of information, trying to find the truth. Mom took me to the library with her when I was small, so she could keep a watchful eye over my little blonde head while she delved into the annals of our family's long lost history. There she would spend hours and hours searching through the online databases and old archives on the hunt for articles about the Spencers or the Kendrells or the Lintons or the Becketts or the Bradfords. Fortunately, our family used to be pretty rich back in the day. Mom says it's a lot easier to research your family tree if you come from a wealthy background. There are more records kept on the coming and goings of the rich as opposed to street beggars and paupers. That's probably because of the money. As soon as money's involved, people will pay attention to you. It was like that back in the 1700s, and it's exactly the same now. I remember that the floor of the library was hard, covered in dark green carpet that was uncomfortable and scratchy, and the walls were dull gray like the concrete block in a multi-story car park. Though Mom got me a library card, I always got bored within the first half hour or so. There are only so many times you can reread volumes of Goosebump. Despite these inconveniences, however, I still found the stories Mom would tell me about my long-dead relatives interesting. The stories sound like they came from the pages of a book, not real life, not history, my history. There were stories about my great-great-grandfather, Zachary Kendall, who used to be a priest, but was fired from his post after he physically assaulted a member of his congregation while drunk on the Christmas day. There are stories about my great-great-great-grandmother, Maribel Spencer, who ran away from home at the age of 15 to marry her middle-aged piano teacher, Roger Beckett. That's pretty scandalous. There were stories about my great-great-great-great-aunt, Rose Bradford, who was rumored to be a witch and claimed she could cure any ache or illness with a sprig of holly. I don't know why, but these stories my mom told me of unknown people from unfamiliar times always resonate with me. Maybe it was because they weren't fictional characters or celebrities, but real people, my family, part of me. I wouldn't be alive right now without Zachary Kendall, even if he did beat up a member of his congregation, and I wouldn't be alive without Maribel Spencer, even if she did have a thing for older men who could play a semi-decent Fiorellis. In a way, I owe them. I owe them a lot. I suppose what they say is true. Blood really is thicker than water. And speaking of blood, the local library wasn't the only place my mom's investigation led her. Oh no, that was just the tip of the iceberg. She used to take me to cemeteries a lot. Not just this cemetery, Barrowby, All Saints, but cemeteries all across Lincolnshire. Sometimes even further afield, like to Yorkshire or Leicestershire? Leicestershire? The thing about family history is if you get obsessed with it like Mom, birth certificates and death certificates stop being enough. You want to see real evidence of your ancestors' past lives for yourself. Hence graveyards. Lots and lots of graveyards. Every weekend without fail, my mom would take me on a trip to a graveyard searching for ancestors. Sometimes we'd turn it into a game. We'd challenge one another to see who could find Rose Bradford's final resting place the quickest. The winner got to choose what we'd listen to in the car on the way home. Being my mom's daughter, I hated her taste in music and I was desperate to beat her. I got quite good at finding graves, if I do say so myself. Even though I was around 7 or 8 and my legs weren't as long as my mom's, I was able to beat her 9 times out of 10. I mean, I'm not seeing anything warranting social services yet. I used to think she was going easy on me. Now I'm not so sure. I just have a talent. I'm good at finding dead people, even if they have been dead for 2 centuries and all that's left behind are bones. Now let me just get one thing straight. I'm not crazy. I don't think dead people called out to me or anything. I've never seen a ghost before, excluding the ones in horror movies. I guess it's just a coincidence. But it's quite a strange coincidence. Whenever I went into a graveyard with my mom, I just knew where to look, almost instinctively. My feet just happened to lead me to a tombstone, and via some strange skill I might have inherited from Rose Bradford, the self-proclaimed psychic. I was usually right. That might be why I'm so obsessed with cemeteries, even now. Just like some people prefer hot weather, others cold, I like graveyards. They remind me of my childhood, a fun time spent with my mom searching for my relatives. When I went out looking for graves with my mom, I was almost always right. Ever since I started attending St. Hugh's College, however, I've only ever felt wrong. Though I get good grades in most of my classes, I'm hopelessly lost when it comes to anything beyond that. I have hardly any friends other than Hattie, and even she might turn against me if she knew how I felt about her. I'm nothing like Amelia Miller, who just happens to be in the same form as me. She's always surrounded by people. They all love her. Would they love me if I'd been called Amelia instead? I don't know. But I do know, even though it's unfair and ridiculous and I don't dislike Amelia, I'm still jealous of her. Her parents are still together, and her dad has a good job, and she has nice skin and pretty blue eyes, and she's incredibly popular. I, on the other hand, am awkward and shy, and I can't hold a conversation with anybody other than Hattie. That might be another reason why I like graveyards. There are lots of people in them, but they can't bother me like they do in school. They're dead, and that's perfectly fine by me. As the saying goes, dead men tell no tales. They only leave tales behind, which we can examine as we see fit. That's why I came to Barrowby All Saints this Friday, instead of catching the bus to go to the school. I just want some time off. A few moments where I can stop being myself, a person I've never liked. If only I'd been born as an Amelia, then my life would be so much better. I would be so much better. The day is overcast for early autumn, and a thick layer of fog creeps along the ground. The grass is full of morning dew, but the soil beneath it is firm and hard. I suppose that's to be expected. You wouldn't want to build a graveyard on marshland where people would run the risk of falling through the earth and into graves. Yeah, we got a background now. We even got this fog animation. I might have an affinity for the dead, but not even I fancy popping in for an unexpected visit with Gerard Fisher, 1843 to 1912, and Emmeline, wife of the above. It's cold too. The wind snakes down my spine and I shiver. Oh, you hear that? The wind sound effect? It isn't a rough wind though. Instead it's soft, brushing past my cheek and through my hair in an almost apologetic manner. The leaves on the trees are dark green, some already turning red and yellow, but the sun in the sky is obscured by clouds, so everything looks gray. My feet crunch over the stray leaves with every step I take, but that's the only sound I can hear. Just me, the wind, and the leaves. As I walk through these well-trodden paths, I pause, examining each tombstone that catches my interest. Her eyes are low and tense, for my taste. There's something strangely inviting about these old slabs of stone, almost as though they're greeting me, and why wouldn't they? I come here often enough. They should know me by now. Any other mother would probably find her only daughter's obsession with graveyards unsettling. Fortunately, my mom is just as weird as I am, so she doesn't question it. She must know my love of graveyards is all her fault. I nod my head in recognition as I pass each tombstone. Alistair Doncaster, Irene Douglas, Charlotte Draper, Doreen Hughes, Abel Johnson, Genevieve Parson, Aubrey Wedgwood. I wonder about these people, reduced to nothing more than names and bones. What lives did they lead? Were they happy, sad, or merely bemused by all the coincidence which led them into being? For Alistair Doncaster, that happened in 1879. For Irene Douglas, it was 1894. What was the world like back then, when these people were alive and their footsteps, not mine, crunched the leaves and fell firmly against the compacted earth? I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine it. As I walk through the graveyard, like Alice sinking into Wonderland, a heavy thought suddenly strikes me. What would it be like if I was already dead? I close my eyes. The cold wind blows across my cheeks, and I swear I can almost smell it. The air from my nostril, the scent of decay. What was that sound? It was almost like a footstep, but that can't be. I'm the only person here after all. At least, I thought I was. Not anymore. A young girl stands there, her arms held by her sides, her eyes wide and blue. Her hair is loose, light brown, her fringe cut just above her eyebrows. She wears a white dress, long and modest, which falls to her ankles. Ghost? Man, spooky. Her dress is comprised of a number of layers and looks like something that belongs to another era, another time. In England, where Queen Victoria was on the throne, and the horse and the carriage was still the main way people got about, and it was socially acceptable to wear bonnets in public. She looks like nobody I've ever seen before, except characters in period dramas. There's something so unrealistic about her appearance that I can hardly bring myself to believe that she's real. Maybe that's why I'm doing something I rarely do. My curiosity unsticks my throat and I find myself asking her a question. Are you going to a costume party? Are you referring to this old thing? That dress doesn't look like some old thing. It's expensive, right? I believe it was rather dear when Father first purchased it. Now, however, I'm not particularly well versed in the economy, so I could not give you an answer. Father? What kind of girl calls her dad father? Maybe I'm just biased, because my dad vanished before I was even born. Mom told me he couldn't cope with the commitment, which was quite funny, really, because he had no qualms about commitment when he asked me to sleep with him. I guess... Okay. I was like, what the fuck for a moment there, but I realized this is probably the mom talking. I thought maybe this was Toma, but it's probably the continuation of Mom's story. But Father sounds far too dated. And I haven't even touched on the other stuff she said. Oh, the girl smiles. Her face remains pale and does not flush, but I can imagine blood coursing beneath her cheeks all the same. She gives the impression of blushing even though she does not. I suppose most people would use dad nowadays. Forgive me, I am not familiar with such a phrase, and it sounds peculiar to me. And the plot thickens. My questions only seem to invite more questions, and I find myself drawn towards this strange girl despite myself. I want to know who she is. I want to understand her. It must be this feeling, this desperate thirst for hidden knowledge, which encouraged Mom to track down what now remains of Zachary Kendall, Maribel Spencer, Rose Bradford, and the rest. So, I have not seen you around Barrowby before. Do you live here? No spoilers, Cottonat. I've lived here for a very long time, but you don't look much older than me. I will be 15 years old this December. At least, I should be. So she's 14 too. You say that you lived here for a long time, but I've never seen you before. You don't go to St. Hugh's, do you? She shakes her head. So what school do you go to? Ruskin? Sandon? Not Walton Girls. She shakes her head again. Then are you homeschooled? That will explain what she's doing in this graveyard at 8 on a Friday morning. Wearing such a strange outfit, she might as well have fled from one of those ye old-fashioned photography parlor places. I suppose I was homeschooled, yes. I have never been to school before. I used to have Ellie, but I have not seen her in some time. Ellie? A private tutor? Something like that, yes. She has bruises around her neck, and she has bruises around her neck? I don't know, she has... I mean... I have something here, but I can't tell if that's my monitor or if that's a graphic. Here? In the first picture, they were purple as heck. Okay, I missed that detail. Something like that, yes. She was rather strict. She got so angry when I escaped from her stuffy old history lessons and hid over at the Linton's estate. She smiles a soft, gentle smile, like an old woman with roomy eyes might when recalling a fond memory. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody my age pull a face like that before. Just who is this girl? But you don't have a tutor anymore? There wouldn't be much point anymore. Is she one of those YouTube celebrities then? She looks the part in those clothes. I can imagine her as one of those eccentric, self-proclaimed living dolls who gets thousands of subscribers for eating food on camera. So, I'm sorry this is the first question that I should have asked. What's your name? Emily. Emily. I think I can remember that. It's a common enough name. There are 2 Emilys in my class. Emily Hargreaves and Emily Turner. I don't know if this name fits the girl in front of me though. Emily sounds too simple, somehow, and unfinished too, like a sentence ending without a full stop. I don't investigate it any further, however. I hardly know the girl. What right do I have to ask so many questions? And if it would not be too rude, may I inquire as to what I should call you? Oh, I should have expected this. When somebody asks your name, it's only polite to ask for theirs in return. I don't like answering this question though. I never have done. Just what is my name anyway? It says Toma on my birth certificate, but I can't bring myself to believe that. Not when I was fated, before I took my first breath, to be called Amelia. Oh my, do not look so troubled. You will make me feel guilty. I'm sorry. What a funny girl. You don't need to apologize. She thinks I'm funny, does she? That kind of stings, given how peculiar she looks. You don't need to tell me your name if you don't wish to do so. We all have our own secrets. Are you sure you don't mind? I'm quite sure. I could just make up a name for you instead. Well, hope you're not averse to this suggestion. I rather like giving people nicknames. I would always call Miss Warren Ellie. Her first name was Helena, you see, but she got mad at me because of that too. This girl has no manners, she would always say. She may have a pretty face, but she behaves like a gutter snipe. Not that I gave a button what she thought. Father was paying her enough, so I thought it best to make her work for her wages. She may have found me irritating, but I certainly wasn't boring. Well, I suppose that's fine. Then I can think of a name for you? Yes, it doesn't bother me. Anything would be better than Toma. Well, let me see. Emily looks me up and down, one finger against her lower lip. Her smile is teasing and her eyes flash mischievously, like a naughty schoolgirl's in an Enid Blyton story. She'll be talking about condensed milk and tin sardines next, I'm sure of it. It is true we do not know one another very well, but that is just in the present. I feel we could become quite close if given a chance. You remind me so much of her, after all. Can it be mere coincidence? Her? I thought so from behind too, but when you turned about it became clearer than ever. You have her nose and her eyes. Maybe even her forehead too, but it's hard to tell since it's all covered in hair. Well, I look at the ground, suddenly awkward and dig the tip of my school shoes into the earth. I shift my right foot slightly, making a small indentation in the earth, a minute grave for an ant. I don't know if I like being compared to other people. I do that enough myself. Even if I do look like one of your friends, I don't think I want their name. I was hoping for a name of my own. Yes, of course. You don't need to worry about that. I would never be so callous as to dress you in the title of another. I apologize if it seemed that way. She does sound sorry too, truly sorry. Even if you look like her, you are not her. You couldn't be. It's just not possible. Sigh. So let me see a name for you. A name that belongs to you and only you. I think I have it. From now on, you can be Verity. Verity? Do you like it? It's pretty, much prettier than my real name. Emily smiles, her face flushing, though once more it doesn't really flush. I just imagine that it does, with happiness. I'm so glad. I thought that virtue names might be too anachronistic nowadays, but I'm truly fond of them. One of my aunt was called Charity, and my grandmother was Patience. Not that she was particularly patient. She used to hit my father for the smallest of misdemeanors when he was a young boy. But that was a long time ago. Her face darkens, but only for a few moments. At any rate, I'm curious. Why are you in a gloomy place like this at such an hour, when you should be at school? Oh, I just like graveyards, I guess. They're relaxing. Relaxing? That's quite a strange thing to say. Why do you think that? I'm not sure. I just like them. They're nice and quiet, and people don't come here much. When they do, they're quiet too. It's a respectful thing to do. Apart from the local boys who tramp about here drunk on Friday nights and piss on the headstones and scrawl rude words on them. I glance at the nearby grave, that of Elijah, or Alicia? Pharaoh? Somebody has crawled across the top of it in black marker pen. God is dead. It seems we have a Banksy of our own living in Barrowby. Who would have thought? And I like thinking of stories too. Stories? Yes, graves are small and the people buried beneath them are turned into names and dates, nothing more. I think there must be more to these people than that, though. What were their parents like? Did they have any siblings? What was their job? Were they happy? What about all the people they met, whose lives they may have changed without them even realizing it? I don't know about all those things. I never will. It's fascinating, but at the same time, it's a little sad. I blush, my hands hanging limply at my side. Did I say too much? I think I might have said too much. This is why I don't talk to people at school, other than Hattie. It's because I'm weird, and I know my fellow classmates, Emily Hargreaves and Emily Turner included, would just laugh at me. Well, maybe Amelia wouldn't. Amelia's too nice to laugh at anybody. That's what I think anyway. It probably sounds stupid, though. No, I think you made some good points. I did? Yes, every person has a story, and there's not enough space in a single tombstone to tell it. The sad truth is, there are so many people in this world, and it's not possible to remember every single story. As the years go by, they fall by the wayside. The dead must always concede to the whims of the living, even in a place like this. Emily looks back at Alicia, Pharaoh's graves, decorated with the biting political commentary God is dead and sighs. I like to give stories too. In fact, I could tell you a story of my own. I've been turning it over in my head for quite some time, and I would be intrigued to hear your response. I wouldn't mind. Are you quite sure? I don't want to bore you. I can't remember the last time anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. No, I'm quite sure. I would love to. There was nothing else I wanted to do here anyway. Nothing other than wander, trying to avoid thinking about school next Monday and how much trouble I'll be in when it's discovered I've been playing truant. I always run away from my problems. I've done ever since I was a child. I must have inherited that admirable trait from my dad. Well then, if you want to follow me. Emily turns her hair fluttering and slips through the graveyard like a shadow. I follow her, curious yet cautious, as she leads me behind the church where the trees are thicker and there are even more graves. She draws my attention to a tombstone, just one tombstone of many. It juts out of the grass like a tooth from a gum, slightly crooked. A few cracks run down its dark gray side, and atop the grave is a fringe with pale yellow lichen. Lichen? The name engraved into the tombstone is a little difficult to see, impressed only shallowly, and I have to strain my eyes to read it through the fog. I didn't explore the graveyards of Lincolnshire in my youth for nothing, though, and I'm more skilled and most dangerous when it comes to reading inscriptions on gravestones. Here lies the body of Phillips Burns, 1807-1851. Also, Perdita Burns, wife of the above, 1811-1851. Also, Emmeline Burns, and their beloved daughter, 1836-1851. May their souls rest in peace. I shift, suddenly uncomfortable. Graveyards don't usually make me uncomfortable, but there's something about this tombstone that strikes a discordant note within me. Something here just isn't right. They all died in the same year. They did indeed, all of them on the same day too. I turn away from the grave, the final remnant of the unfortunate Burns family, and bite my lower lip. When I next speak, my voice is barely a whisper, even quieter than the wind. How do you know that? It's just a story, I already told you that. I suppose so, but when Emily said it, it didn't sound like a story. She sounded deadly serious. She looked serious, too. Her eyes are narrowed, her lips pursed, her face stark white as though carved from stone. The fog swirls about us like a veil. It's even thicker than it was earlier this morning. I can taste the fog at the back of my throat when I inhale and I cough. It tastes cold, rank, repulsive. The taste of death. Just who is Emily anyway? She doesn't look like any girl I know. She doesn't act like any girl I know. I'm almost tempted to believe, but that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Yeah, she's thinking the same thing we're all thinking. So should I tell you my story? I must warn you though, it is rather dour. And again, given our setting, what other kind of story could it be? You should already know how it ends. Emmeline Burns, born in 1836 to Philip and Perdita Burns, led a charmed life. Her family was rather well-to-do, her grandfather being a lawyer, their father a banker, and she grew up in a large house with 5 bedrooms on the outskirts of Barrowby. Given her father's profession, he was often away in London on business, but this did not upset Emmeline. She was old enough to understand that her father needed to work so they could afford her nice house and her fine clothes and the ribbons she wore in her hair, so she did not complain. Though she did not see her father for months at a time, when he returned home it was always with a present for Emmeline, and a kiss on her cheek, and it was as though he had never been away at all. Philip was a kind man, though he may not have been a paragon of manly virtues. He's the runt of the litter. If he were a pig, we would have drowned him in the well, grandmother Patience always griped. He was not naturally predisposed to the world of financing, but he did have a good head on his shoulders, and was relatively intelligent. Not even grandmother Patience could deny that. It was through his quick wits, rather than his magnetic charisma, of which he was sorely lacking, that Philip had been able to expand upon the Burns family's fortunes, as he had invested a good deal of their money into the stock market. Emmeline really did love her father, despite his lack of presence in her life, or maybe because of it. They do say, after all, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Even when Philip was not home, Emmeline had a great deal to busy herself with, and she was never bored or lonely. She would help her mother with her embroidery, or exchange idle gossip with servants, or go for long walks about the countryside, eating blackberries from the hedgerow and snagging her dress on brambles. Emmeline's long-suffering governess, Helena Warren, certainly had her hands full when it came to disciplining her rowdy pupil. Though Emmeline was not unintelligent, she had been born with the disposition of a sea captain or a polar explorer, and she was physically incapable of sitting still for 5 minutes. That is, unless she was with Cornelia Linton. Emmeline and Cornelia had known one another since they were both babies, and they were almost inseparable. They spent most of their waking hours together, sitting by the lakeside in the Lintons' private estate. They would stare out into the untroubled waters which carried along with it lily pads, reeds, and fish with shimmering scales, and they would talk, sipping raspberry lemonade. Everyone in Barrowby knew that the lake and the Lintons' estate belonged to Cornelia and Emmeline. They had claimed it through the countless hours they had whiled away by those grassy banks, feeding the fish and dipping their bare toes into the water. The lake was their private land, a secret garden everybody knew of but nobody would intrude upon. And so it was that Emmeline and Cornelia spent the summer months together, basking under the sunshine. Sounds like I'm getting Discord messages. So how is your embroidery coming along? Cornelia pouted, giving Emmeline a light shove in the shoulder. Oh please, do not ask me about my embroidery. You know better than anybody how dreadful I am at it. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. Emmeline giggled, returning Cornelia's shove with one of her own. I don't understand how you can be that terrible at sewing, Nellie. It is hardly a science. It may be simple for you, but it is not so for me. Engaging in an activity I have no talent for is incredibly disheartening, and I keep poking myself with the needle. Ooh, let me see. What? No. Cornelia's pout deepened, and she held her hand behind her back, attempting to hide them. Why do you want to see my hands anyway? Do you want to gloat? Me? Gloat? I would never. I just want to see the wounds that have been dealt to you despite your best efforts, my dear Cornelia, so I may applaud you for your bravery. Forgive me for being so cynical, but I suspect you may be making fun of me. Of course I will forgive you. You cannot help your cynicism, given your father fancies himself as a philosopher. It must run in your family. Indeed, he does. Our library is full of Hegel and Kant? No, I doubt he understands it. Mother says he just wants to show off at dinner parties. How is he able to show off if he cannot understand the material he speaks of? It is nothing more than bluster. My mother says pretense is one of the key traits a man must possess if he wishes to be successful in this world. My father is an earnest man. He couldn't lie if his life depended on it, especially not about philosophy. That is why my mother worries about you, Emmeline. She has said much before. She need not concern herself with my family. We may not be as rich as you, but what we lack in wealth we make up for with raw talent. Are you saying I have no talent? I am saying it is somewhat sad that a 14-year-old girl such as yourself still cannot sew a single comforter. Hey. Cornelia, who had let her guard slip as she pondered her father's ill-fated attempts to ingratiate himself with the intelligentsia of the age, tried to obscure her hands behind her back once more, but it was already too late. What are you doing, Emmy? I'm examining your hands, as I said I would, and oh dear. Emmeline tutted and shook her head, her fingers linked together with Cornelia's. They are such beautiful hands, with such smooth skin, yet they are marked all over with red dots. It appears as though you have been used as a human pincushion. I already told you, Emmy, I have no skill when it comes to sewing. Why must you tease me so? I was not teasing you, I was honoring your efforts. That is a bald-faced lie, and we both know it. If you had an ounce of respect for me, you would not be smiling like that. Like what? Like that. Now let go of me. But Emmeline did not. Instead, she continued to stand near skirts, fluttering about her legs, attempting to peer into Cornelia's plumpy little face with an undisguised amusement. Emmy, I told you to let go. Why do you never listen to me? Because seeing you blush is so much fun, of course. Emmy? If Cornelia had the use of both her hands, perhaps she would have struck the top of Emmeline's head for her insolence. As it was, she did not, and all she could do was glare. Glare and blush. Cornelia blushed a lot. That was one of the downsides of having such fair skin. That, and when she poked herself with the sewing needles, as she was so prone to doing, red welts that resulted stood out sharply, starkly against her milky complexion. Why are you acting so coy, Nellie? I know you enjoy my company, really. Be that as it may, you are behaving rather childishly right now, and I have no desire to indulge on your whims. Honestly? Honestly. Even if those whims are your own as well? Well, Cornelia let her head hang, her face turning just a shade darker. This was not the first time the two girls had held hands. They had been friends ever since they were small, and they were not unfamiliar with the sensation of the other's skin. In fact, they were more well-versed with one another's bodies than one might have expected. What kind of visual novel was this? I didn't see a sexual content tag on the Steam tags. Though their mothers would have scolded them for their unladylike manner with which they comported themselves when left alone by the lakeside, they would have been scandalized to learn of the other, more intimate action that had taken place between the two girls. It had only been a month or so ago when, drunk on the lazy heat of the encroaching summer, the two girls had slowly, lackadaisically shared their first kiss. Not a kiss on the cheek or the temple, as they had done during their babyhood, but a true kiss typically shared between adults of the opposite sex. Neither of them knew who had instigated the kiss or why they had lingered for so long in such a manner. Their lips pressed together, but both agreed after the fact that they had liked it. It had just felt right. As such, without giving these moments of intimacy too much thought, the two girls had continued to display their affection for one another in such a manner all through the summer of 1851. It may have been uncommon for two women to exchange such kisses and caresses, but what of it? Why should they not kiss one another if they wanted to? The lakeside was their own private haunt, their secret garden, and nothing could intrude upon them there, not even so-called common decency. That was another question. Why should it be indecent? Emily did not understand. She loved Cornelia, and Cornelia loved her, and was that not enough? Even if it was not enough for the rest of the world, it was more than enough for her. You know, you really are beautiful. Do you honestly think so? Of course, I thought so from the moment I was old enough to understand what beauty is. You are one of the loveliest people I've ever seen. Is that why you like me then? Because you think I'm pretty? Maybe. We humans are fickle beings. Isn't your father proof enough of that? Oh hey, Channel 3 Live. How cruel, Emmy. If you're only kissing me because you think I'm pretty, then perhaps I should reevaluate the nature of our relationship. You came at an awkward moment, Channel 3 Live. This is like, I just realized this is like a lesbian love story. You are nothing more than a rake. You're even worse than that awful Wedgwood boy. You would compare me to Aubrey Wedgwood? My dear Cornelia, I am wounded. I am nothing at all like that boorish fop. Well, I wonder. He can be awfully insistent too. It's not fitting for a young man. Of course it is not fitting. Did you know he even deigned to take my hand during your mama's garden party last week? Honestly? Indeed. I would have slapped him, Nelly, had his mother not happened upon this. Yeah, it's a visual novel. Did she scold him? Lady Wedgwood? Of course not. I picked it because I was looking for something I could beat in about an hour in this game. The stat said you could beat this game in about an hour, so. Emmeline spat on the ground and did not even have the courtesy to wipe her mouth with a handkerchief afterwards. Under normal circumstances, Cornelia would have scolded Emmeline, but on this score she relented. Thinking about Aubrey Wedgwood often made her want to spit too. She dotes on that spoiled son of hers. Why, she probably believes him to be the second coming of Christ, though he flirts with every single woman in the village, old or young. You see, Nellie, I'm nothing like Aubrey. I would rather die than become a rover like him. My feelings for you, my dear Cornelia, are molded from a different cast. You have captured my heart with your ephemeral beauty, and now mine eyes can wander no further. You are my sweet red rose, newly sprung in June. Well... Cornelia, flustered though she was by Emmeline's teasing, had enough wits about her to recognize that line. Are you quoting poetry at me now, Emmy? Indeed. Did you know that my love is like the melody, sweetly played in tune? Don't be an idiot. If you wish to serenade me, you could at least write a poem of your own. But I know you appreciate it, really. In all honesty, I think you're being rather foolish. I cannot help myself, though. I really do love you, Cornelia. I love you so. Sometimes I fear I may go mad. What do you know of madness? I know when you are not by my side I miss you horribly and find myself counting down the minutes. No, the very seconds until we may be in one another's company once more. I appreciate your feelings, Emmy. I love you too. If only Emmeline and Cornelia could have continued to spend their time together in so sweet a manner, smiling and laughing, or else bickering pointlessly and making one another pout, yet always parting with words of love and kisses stolen beneath the warm summer sun. Fortunately, such moments cannot last forever. The splendors of the summer soon faded, and the leaves began to turn brown, and the wind gained a sharp edge that made Emmeline shiver. It was also during the autumn months that Philip Burns returned home for the first time in half a year. This reunion, however, was not quite as happy as the previous ones had been. Philip Burns had always been a small man, yet he seemed much smaller that bitingly cold September. He stooped more than usual when he entered the room, if he entered them at all, for he had now developed a habit of lingering, ghost-like, about the thresholds of his own home, as though afraid of stepping inside. It was almost as though during his 6-month sojourn in London he had lost something crucial to his constitution, his sense of self, or else his soul. Philip's feet were still planted firmly upon the earth, but he was divorced from the world around him. He drifted about aimlessly like a somnambulist? I've never heard this word. Somnambulist, yet was restless within his dream world, and capable of sitting still for more than 5 minutes at a time. Channel Life, this is the gameplay. The genre of this game is visual novel. And sometimes in visual novels you get to make a choice, like like those choose your own adventure books where it says like, do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? But sometimes there isn't, and I always do blind playthroughs, so I didn't know which one this was going to be. But so far I haven't had to make a choice the whole game, So it might be one of those visual novels where you don't make a choice and you just read. He looked at things without seeing them, ate food without tasting it, held objects without touching them. Once he tried to pick up his glass during dinner and used so little force it slipped between his fingers, smashing into pieces against the floor. Even when he spoke to Emmeline, it was without any real feeling, like he was reciting words from a play script, and Philip Burns had never been a very good actor. Yeah, it's a niche interest. I totally understand if you or anybody else are not into this type of game. This is now an ASMR stream with my soothing voice. He was not like Cornelia's father, who had so much huff and puff he could have blown down even the brick home built by the most industrious of the three little pigs. Philip Burns was far too honest, and that was the worst thing. It was because he was an honest man that Emily knew, though he tried to keep the truth from her. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. But she did not know that. Are you alright, Emmy? Emmeline blinked, brushing a few strands of hair out of her face, and turned. Why do you ask? Was my face contorted in a curious manner? I suppose you could say that. You have been acting rather more despondent than usual, that is all. Cat-like smile crossed Emmeline's lips. She leaned forward until her nose was only inches apart from her companions, and said in hushed tones, Are you worried about me, Nellie? I was worried about you, but I shall not worry any longer if you insist upon acting like that. Emmeline only giggled, unmoved by Cornelia's protestations, and rearranged her hair. Seeing you blush always cheers me up, my dear Cornelia. So you admit that you were feeling unhappy earlier? Just a touch. I can't help myself. Not when father has been acting in such a peculiar manner. He shambles about the house like an inanimated corpse. Like the misunderstood creatures from Mr. Shelley's novel. Mr. Shelley? I thought the author of Frankenstein was Mrs. Shelley, not her husband. Oh, I am unsure of the details, Nellie. Mother says a woman could not have written such a twisted tale, and I don't know what I should believe. In any event, it does not particularly matter. Probably not, no. Emmeline ran a hand through her auburn curls, or at least she tried to. She soon found that her bonnet got in the way of this gesture, so she untied the ribbon beneath her chin and removed the offending garment. She let her bonnet sit in her lap, as a mother might with a newly born babe, and played with the light green ribbon, twisting it about the wrist of her right arm. The sensation of the soft, smooth material against her skin was comforting, like a caress. To be quite honest, I have been rather concerned about father. Just this morning he missed a stair during his descent into the hallway and sprained his ankle. Could have broken his leg. But he did not? No, he did not. He looked rather undignified now, though, limping everywhere like an invalid. Oh, Emmy. Emmeline shifted, still playing with the ribbon on her bonnet. The look on Cornelia's face was too somber for a playful forest sprite such as herself, and it was unsettling. She did not want to think about her father. She had retreated to the Lintons' estate despite the protestation of Miss Warren. You have not finished your history lesson, Emmeline. I doubt you could tell Queen Elizabeth apart from a hole in the ground, so she could avoid thinking about her father. This was rather new for Emmeline. She had always loved being with her father. Now, however, she found herself seeking any recourse available to her to avoid him. Seeing him like this, so small and sad, shuffling about his home like a repentant sinner, was too painful. Yeah, catch you later, Channel 3 Live. Good luck with the Resident Evil 4 stream. When you return home, would you give your father my regards? My mother is awfully concerned about him, and you too, Emmeline. Humph, Beatrice Linton would be concerned. She has always loved poking her nose into other people's business. She's not doing it because she enjoys idle gossip. You should know better than anyone that my mother deplores that kind of behavior. She believes it to be most unpleasant. She could not help but feel worried, given what she has read in the papers lately. Your family has a great deal invested in the East Anglian railways, do they not? Don't talk to me about business, Nellie. I can't understand it at all. I'm sure you could if you tried. You've just been raised to believe that you should not bother. Gosh, you sound more and more like your mother every day. Emmeline exhaled, tightening the ribbon on her bonnet about her wrist so much so it started to hurt. Though the material was soft, intended for wear by young women with silken skin who had never worked a day in their privileged little lives, it chafed when she wound it as such about her wrist. It was strange, Emmeline mused, how something as innocuous as a ribbon could cause harm when it was used with such malicious intent. This world was more dangerous than she had ever truly given it credit for. Even the lake, which she had often gazed upon with Cornelia, could be hiding some sinister secret within its depths. I apologize, Nellie. I don't mean to snap at you. I've been rather highly strung as of late. It must be because of the atmosphere at home. Do not fret at me, I understand. You do? Not entirely, but I will try to. I do care about you after all. Thank you, Nellie. The two girls looked at one another, unusually shy, hesitant, their faces slightly flushed. Then, with a tut, Cornelia leant forward, brushing the tips of her finger against Emmeline's wrist. You should not do that. What? Fiddle with your body like that? Because it is unbecoming of a lady? Because you are hurting yourself. Your poor hand has gone white. The blood cannot flow through your body properly if you impede it like that. And your hands, by contrast, still appear to be red, Nellie. Emmeline giggled and began to unwind the ribbon from about her wrist. Are you still yet to master the sacred art of the cross-stitch? That is neither here nor there. I am trying to comfort you, Emmeline. And you have been doing a wonderful job. Gazing upon your many imperfections always cheers me. You are so cruel, Emmeline. Sometimes I feel like you do not truly love me. You just love toying with me. Now, where did you get a silly idea like that? Emmeline smiled with a touch less sarcasm than before and leaned forward. Then, moving quickly, as a kittiwake might pluck a fish out of the water, she pressed a chaste kiss against the corner of Cornelia's lips. I love you more than ever. Nothing could quell my feeling for you, not a raging storm or a howling wind. Cornelia pressed one hand against her cheek gingerly. The spot where Emmeline had kissed her tingled. It felt much like being poked with a sewing needle, a sensation Cornelia was depressingly familiar with, yet it was not unpleasant. Your blushes truly are beautiful, Cornelia. They would even outdo the roses in the midst of summer. It makes me wish I could kiss you every single second of the day, if it would always elicit such a lovely response. I do not think my heart would be able to cope with such a constant slew of affection. You would kill me, Emmy. And what better way would there be to die than to be kissed fervently by a girl you love? With a light giggle, even breezier than that of the coastal air, Emily pressed another kiss against the side of Cornelia's mouth. You know, you should ask for my permission before you do that. I'm not quite as hungry for affection as you are. So you say, but you did not offer much resistance. That sounds like something Aubrey would say. Never. You would not seek to compare me to that cur again, would you, Nellie? Alright. Good to know, Channel 3. I'm simply saying what I see. You claim to dislike Aubrey, but you grow more and more like him with every passing day. That is a lie. Libel, slander, take it back. No. Take it back, I said. I refuse. Well, I insist. If you want me to change my mind, you will have to insist harder than that. Alright then, how's this? With a devilish glint in her eye, which would have been evidence enough only a couple of centuries past to try her as a witch, Emmeline shifted forward and began her merciless assault. Not even William of Normandy, as he drove back the armies of Harold Godwinson during the Battle of Hastings, could have conceived of such brutality. Emmy, stop that! Cornelia kicked and squealed, pushed back against the ground by Emmeline's sudden siege, but it was to no avail. Emmeline had the element of surprise on her side, and she had taken a clear advantage. Cornelia blinked up at Emmeline, squirming like a hooked fish, as Emmeline sat astride her skirts, rucked up her thigh, and her fingers trailing lines across Cornelia's prone body, beneath her chin and her arms against her sides. Was there any war tactic more vicious, more wicked, more devious than that of tickling? And this was not just any tickling, oh no, this was extreme tickling that would surely end in bloodshed. Emmy, stop, get off me! Cornelia implored breathlessly, choking the words from between her pursed lips, but the indomitable Emmeline remained unmoved. No, I will not until you recant what you said. That you were like Aubrey? Indeed, admit it to be nothing more than a lie, and I may spare your life. No, never, I stand by my words. Then I will stand by my actions. I will not stop until you surrender, Nellie, and I warn you, I can be very persuasive when I want to be. Her eyes hardening like the steel of a sword's blade, Emmeline dipped her head and began to press kisses against Cornelia's neck. Cornelia's dress had begun to slip down her shoulders, and there was a good deal of pale pink skin on show, more than would have been deemed socially acceptable. Ah, you rogue, you would attack a helpless young girl? Only because this helpless young girl is attempting to defile my honor. So you would seek to defile me? Well, I wonder. Cornelia squealed as though she had been doused in water and redoubled her efforts to escape, but it was all in vain. The two girls continued to bicker playfully, giggling even as the warmth of the sun began to dissipate and an autumn chill settled into the air. At that moment, as the day drew to a close, the two girls may have truly believed, with their rumpled clothes and disordered hair and flustered cheeks, that this could last forever. Emmeline was dreaming, though she was not sure what it was exactly she was dreaming of. Her dreams were mostly comprised of vague shapes and distorted sounds, as though she were viewing her own fantasy land from behind frozen glass or through a fine film of water. Sometimes, however, she dreamed of Cornelia. She always knew when she had dreamt of Cornelia because when she awoke, it was with a silly smile on her face and a soft flush across her cheeks. That was how she had realized she was in love. She was always thinking of Cornelia, even during the rare occasions when Cornelia was not beside her. Though Emmeline was only 14, and she did not fully understand what love was, she did not need to. Why trouble herself over the intricacies of the four-letter words when she could, instead, be doing things that made her happy? Those things being chiefly talking to Cornelia, braiding her hair, making her blush, kissing her lips, her cheeks, her eyelids. Emmeline was not particularly picky. On this particular night, however, Emmeline did not awake to find sunlight streaming in through her window, half-formed remembrances of her love flitting through her mind. She did not awake during the morning at all. It must have been late at night because it was pitch black in her bedroom and she could not hear any birds. It was earlier than 5 then, she assumed, for she had no way of knowing if this was the correct or not. It was so dark in her room that she could not see the clock that hung on her wall, though she could hear its ticking. The first point she was aware of, other than the oppressive darkness, was that it was cold. The chill of winter was well and truly settling in, especially during the night, and she could no longer sleep with bare arms and a light coverlet, as she had done before. Her summer sleepwear had been packed away at the back of her wardrobe, and the maids now set her winter nightgowns on her bed before she went to sleep, complete with puff sleeves and high collars. The second thing Emmeline noticed, as her eyes slowly grew accustomed to the dark, was that she was not alone. There was somebody else in the room with her. It was none other than her father, Philip. Emmeline stared at her father with wide eyes. He looked back at her, and Emmeline could tell, despite the dark, that he was just as surprised, if not more, than she was. Had this face always looked so lined, his mouth so drawn? Perhaps the shadows were playing tricks with her eyes, but he looked far older than his 44 years. Emmeline swallowed. All of a sudden, her throat felt dry. Father, is something wrong? Nothing's wrong, Emmy. Nothing at all. But he did not look at her face, and he stuttered when he spoke. Why did he sound so frightened? Had something bad happened? Emmeline could not think of any other reason why he would be in her room at such an hour, looking so very tired. No, tired did not even begin to describe it. He looked haggard, as though on the brink of death, and his hands would not stop shaking even when he clenched them into fists. Emmeline sat up in bed, the covers falling about her body like a funeral shroud, and looked at her father with concern. "It isn't mother, is it? Is she sick?" Your mother? She's fine, Emmy. She should be sleeping now." "Oh." I paused. "And why are you not asleep, father? Could you not?" "No, there is something I have to do." "At this hour?" "Yes, it is of the utmost importance. I don't imagine you would understand." Emmeline flinched. Her father's voice was strangely hard despite the nervous stammer, and she was not used to him talking to her in such a way. Maybe other girls' fathers spoke in such terse, clipped terms. Cornelia's father sometimes did when Beatrice wasn't there to chastise him, but not her father, not Philip Burns. There was no warmth to his voice, no tenderness. It was as though he were speaking to a stranger, rather than his dear daughter, his priceless jewel, his lovely little Emmeline. "I may not understand what it is you wish to do, father, but are you sure I cannot help?" "No, nobody can. But I appreciate the offer, Emmy, but it is far too late." Her father swallowed. Emmeline could hear it. It sounded painful, as though he were attempting to choke down a lead bullet or a piece of steel shrapnel. I do not understand. If you don't believe I can help you, why did you come to my room? What is it that you wish to discuss with me, father?" Oh God. Philip's shoulders shook. It sounded like he was trying to stem a flow of oncoming tears, though he was not entirely successful. He bit down on his lower lip, but moisture still sparkled in the corner of his eyes, threatening to spill down his cheeks like an April rain. If Grandmother Patience were here, she would have mocked him. She always had done when Philip was a child. Perhaps that was why Philip never visited Grandmother Patience. She made him feel like a young boy again, small, stupid, and utterly insignificant. That was why Philip had gone into banking, though he was not suited for such a cutthroat industry. He didn't have the knack for it, never had done. Grandmother Patience had said it much, but he was determined to prove her wrong. He wanted for once in his life to make her proud. And look what that had cost him. His wealth, his reputation, and now, worst of all, his family too. But there was no going back now. Father? Father, are you alright? What's wrong? Emmeline. Oh, my dear Emmeline, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to be a good father, Emily. I really did try. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be fair. I had no intention of treating you like my parents treated me, but I was incapable of doing it. In the end, it all went wrong. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I was succeeding. For a while, maybe I was. Now, I realized that was a foolish fantasy dreamt by a foolish man. My mother was right. I would have been drowned when I was younger. It would have saved you all so much trouble. It would have made everything so much easier. Father? Emmeline got to her feet, her bare toes curling against the wooden floorboards, and took a few steps forward. Are you not feeling well? We can call for the physician if you would like. If only you would sit down. Look how much you are trembling. No. Philip shook his head mechanically, back and forth like a tin soldier, his words spoken in an almost frenzied fervor. The physician cannot help now. Nothing can help. We're done for, Emmeline. You and I, your mother too. This is it. This is the end. The end of what exactly? Our money is gone, Emmeline. I made a terrible mistake and now everything is gone. The bubble burst, and we lost it all. Every single thing. Emmeline stared at her father, her mouth open. She did not know what to do, what to say. What could she say? She was only 14 years old, and she had always been told by her mother that women had no place in the world of business. It was only natural when she could understand facts and figures or tables of numbers. Beatrice Linton was the exception, rather than the rule. Beatrice Linton could do anything. She could have probably wrestled a bear to death with her own 2 hands if need be, but Emmeline could not. She was only a young girl, standing in her bedroom in her winter nightgown, shivering like a leaf, and she did not know what to do. But she did not need to ponder her own powerlessness for much longer. I'm sorry, Emmy. I'm so sorry. I let you down. And now this is the only thing I can do to make amends. Father? What are you... But Emily was not able to finish her question. That's because at that moment, Philip Burns closed the distance between them and held his hand around his daughter's throat. Oh shit. His fingers dug into her skin and Emily could not breathe. First it was a shock that drew the air out of her lungs, but then it was the pressure about her throat, choking her. She could hardly believe it. How could her father, who had never raised a hand to her in his life, who had never raised so much as his voice, even contemplate carrying out such a hideous action? But he was. He really was going to kill her. Emmeline felt herself growing faint. She wondered idly if dark purple bruises would be left around her throat when Philip let go. A fairy circle made of mushrooms. Her head swam, her legs gave way beneath her, and she fell backwards onto her bed. Still, Philip's fingers did not budge. They remained upon her throat, fixated with the gruesome task they had been charged with. It was almost as though Philip Burns had split in two. One half remained focused on the murder of his dear daughter, his beloved Emmy, while the other, appalled at his actions, looked away with disgust. Maybe he should have poisoned her nightly mug of hot cocoa instead. Then he wouldn't have had to bear witness to the look on her face, as the life was slowly choked out of her tiny body. I'm sorry, Emmy. I'm so sorry. And he was, too. His cheeks were wet with tears, and more tears kept falling, some of them splashing against Emmeline's cheeks, but this offering of remorse made little difference. Emmeline was still dying. She had been dying for around 2 minutes now, though it felt like it had been far longer, and her heart was already starting to stammer in her chest. I'm doing it for you, Emmy. It's for the greater good, I promise. I cannot stand the thought of my little girl going to the workhouse. I just couldn't. But Philip did not know what else to say. He doubt it would have made much of a difference. Emmeline stared up at the ceiling blankly, her eyes a vast sea of white, her mouth hanging open. Her arms and legs were limp. Though her body was warm, it did not move. It could not. Philip removed his hand from Emmeline's throat, but Emmeline did not stir. Her eyes remained open, unfixed, misty with death. Emmy, oh my Emmy, my little Emmy. With a choked sob, Philip pulled his dear little girl, who was now a very dead little girl, into his arms and wept. After that, Philip Burns killed himself. He set the house ablaze, then slit his throat with a knife. Torching the house may seem like something of a waste, but if he had not, he would not have been buried with his wife and child. Had to make it look like an accident. Of course, Emmeline was not there to witness that, but she found out in due time. And that is the end of the sad story of Emmeline Burns. I open and close my mouth, but no sound comes out. I don't know what to say. I had already suspected it, vague speculations about her being an internet celebrity aside, but I had no doubts left in my mind after hearing Emily's story. This girl is no Emily. I knew she was no Emily from the moment she introduced herself. Emmeline holds one hand to her throat, rubbing it gently as though nursing a cold. I wish he had not choked me. I imagine he did because he thought it would be less violent than stabbing me, but it took so long to die. 3 whole minutes. Worst of all, I could still think during that time. I could grieve. I could suffer. It gave me enough time to form regrets, and maybe that is why I could not die properly. Emmeline sighs, resting a hand against the top of her own gravestone. Unlike the ghosts in film, her hand doesn't pass through it. Instead, her fingers make contact, firm and solid, and I even see her shiver when the coldness of the stone permeates her pale skin. Maybe Grandmother Patience was right. Father does not have the willpower required to see things through until the end, not even murder. I suppose I should congratulate him for trying, though. He really did try. It hurt horribly. I opened my mouth once more, but I don't know what to say. How can I reply to that? What must it have felt like, being betrayed so deeply by your own dad? I don't know, because I don't have one of my own. Of course, this isn't true in the strictest sense of the word. I am not a product of divine conception, and the human man did have a hand in my existence. I don't feel like I have a dad, though. Mom never talks about him, and I never thought to ask. I know Mom doesn't like thinking about Saul Andrews, or that git, as she calls him when she is in a charitable mood. She calls him far worse when she is not. I don't like thinking about him either. I don't have much to think about anyway. I've never met him before. I've only seen his face in photographs, and Mom threw most of those away. Can't say I blame her, given how he reacted to the news of her pregnancy. Apparently, he tried to coerce her into having an abortion, and when that didn't work, he turned tail and fled. Didn't even leave a note. What a git. I always thought I should hate Saul, but I don't even know him well enough for that. Instead, all I feel is an absence of feeling, really. Apathy. Now I can't help but wonder who has it worse, even though I know making such a comparison is unfair. Is it Emmeline, whose dad loved her dearly, to such an extent that wrung the life right out of her lungs? Or is it me, whose dad loved me so little he ran away before I was born and never tried to talk to me? They're both bad in their own ways, and if my mom had bowed to Saul Andrews' wish, I would be dead too. The fact remains, however, that I am not. Emmeline, meanwhile, is. You resent him? I do not know. I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I still can't come to a conclusion. Trying to describe it with words would seem inadequate somehow, but I am upset. I wish it had never happened. I know. Father thought he had to do it, and I'm sure it took him a good deal of thought before he was able to even consider killing me and my mother. He was not a violent person. I know it might sound cliché, but he did not even like killing moths or spiders, and yet, a person like him, spineless Grandmother Patience said, was still able to murder his wife and child, then slit his own throat. Our financial situation must have been bad if he thought this was the only way he could save us. I don't profess to fully understand it myself, but there must have been a reason behind his actions. Men, even the most hot-headed men, do not murder their wives and daughters on sudden whims or whispers from fairies. He must have been in a difficult position, so I feel some sympathy, but at the same time, it just isn't fair. He never even asked me what I wanted, and I certainly did not want to die. I want to stay alive. There were so many more things I want to do. I don't know what things I want to do, not exactly, but I had my whole life ahead of me. I thought I could think about it later. I thought I would have enough time, but I was naive. I just wanted to spend more time with Cornelia, even though I was young, and I did not understand a great deal about the world around me. I know that I loved her. I loved her with all my heart. And then my father killed me, and that was the end of that. At least it should have been. I should have stopped loving her the moment my heart stopped beating, but things are not always so simple. And do you know what happened to Cornelia? Bits and pieces. She was upset after I died, I think. She cried a lot. Then she grew older and was able to put what had happened behind her. She'll be dead now. She must have been dead for years and years. Emmeline smiles bitterly. Almost as long as I have. You didn't try to talk to her? I did, but she could not see me. I tried my hardest, but it all felt so pointless. I could see her face, but I could not dry her tears. I wanted to tell her I was alright, as alright as a dead girl can be anyway, but there was nothing I could do. In the end, I decided to leave her alone. She had moved on, and I knew I should too. Following Cornelia did not make her happy, and it definitely did not make me happy. It just made me feel even more alone. I have not left this graveyard in almost a century. There has been no reason to leave. I just stayed here and slept. A century might seem like a long time, but it slipped by rather quickly. Nobody could see me, so nobody bothered me. At least, until today. You are the first person I have met during the last 150 years who can see me. It is most peculiar. Well, I am quite a peculiar person. I have always liked graveyards. Yes, you told me that earlier. I remembered. You don't think I'm weird, do you? Perhaps a little, but I'm rather happy about it. If you were not weird, as you say, you would not be able to see me, and I would still be alone. This might not be because of me, though. What do you mean? You can see me with your own two eyes, correct? You have not stolen anybody else's, have you? No, of course not. It's just... I owe my life to the people who came before me. Maybe these eyes were a gift from Rose Bradford. Rose? She's one of my ancestors. Apparently she was a medium. That's what Mother says, anyway. Yet, if these eyes are a gift from Rose Bradford, the self-proclaimed White Witch of Beverly, they haven't been of much use until now. I've never seen a ghost before, even though I've been to countless graveyards in my time. I have, however, always been strangely adept in the art of finding dead bodies, even when they're buried deep beneath the earth. Does this mean something? Anything? Nothing at all? Maybe the whole world is crawling with ghosts, thicker than the fog that creeps across the ground, and they just never wanted to make my humble acquaintance. Perhaps they were hiding from me, sitting in the branches of trees or peeking out from behind stained glass church windows, whispering to themselves. Why would they approach me for help anyway? I'm only a young girl, only 14, but Emmeline did. Was there a reason for that? Now that I think about it. They heard you said I resembled. Oh yes, well, you really do look like Cornelia. It took me quite by surprise. For a few moments I thought you might really be her, but that was wrong, of course. You are not Cornelia. You are your own person. Verity. No, my name isn't Verity. We both know that. And I don't know if I am my own person either. How could I be given my name? Toma, a diminutive form from Thomas. Picked because my real name was stolen 2 weeks before I was born. Andrews. A last name given to me by my dad, not as a gift but as an afterthought, like a balled up pair of socks for Christmas. My name was defied by men I'd never met before. A dead grandfather, an absent father. It doesn't belong to me. Nothing belongs to me. At the moment, I'm nothing more than a composite of old names and long-lost ancestors. Bradfords and Bowers and Kendalls and Lintons and... Wait a minute. Linton? Emily, can I ask you something? Of course. Nothing would make me happier. I haven't had much chance to talk to others over the last century. I swallow. My lips feel cracked and dry, my fingertips twitch. Cornelia's last name, what was it? Why, it was Linton. It has been such a long time since I last saw her, but I would never forget that. Linton, was it? Cornelia Linton. Could be a coincidence, of course, but I don't know if I believe in coincidences. Not after everything that's happened today. That was the reason why Emmeline approached me. She thought I was Cornelia, maybe in the sense I am, or at least a small part of me is. And it is with the sudden realization that I feel a light dawn upon me. It's not a real light. The sun remains firmly, stubbornly hidden behind the clouds, but it is a light nonetheless. It is sudden understanding. A whole wealth of memories, a treasure chest of moments shared by the Lintons lake of girlish laughter, raspberry lemonades, and kisses that taste of carbonation that I should have no knowledge of. These scenes should be sepia-tainted, like old photographs found in the back of a charity store from years gone well and truly by. I've never even been kissed before. How would I know what it feels like? But I can imagine it. In fact, I don't need to imagine it, because it really did happen. Not to the current me, but to one of my relatives at another time, in a place not so very far away. Cornelia? Emily stares at me. Or is it me, with wide eyes, hardly daring to believe? I can't entirely believe it either. My body is still mine, but it's not at the same time. Oops. This freaking alert again. My body is still mine, but it's not at the same time. I can sense another presence residing inside me, blown in by the cold autumn breeze. It lingers, hazy and ephemeral, shy to make itself known but desperate to speak. I feel my heart pounding, but the sensation is strangely unfamiliar. My fingers tremble, or are they hers? I open my mouth to speak, but another person's voice comes out. Emmy? Emmy, is that really you? Cornelia, Emily presses a hand against her mouth, trying to stifle a gasp of disbelief. But isn't that unnecessary? How can ghosts breathe? The air was choked out of her lungs long time ago. But now, more than 100 years after her death, Emmeline has a whole new reason to be breathless. I thought you had already passed on. Even after you died, I was never able to find you. At any rate, your body wasn't even buried here. That's right. I was buried where I died in Wiltshire. I was 73. And you died peacefully? Yes. I'm not a ghost. I had no regrets, so I had no reason to come back. And yet, right now, well, this was rather unexpected, to tell you the truth. I had been resting peacefully, minding my own business, when all of a sudden I found myself here inside this body. It must have been years since I looked so young. I must apologize to the young girl whose body I've stolen. It is awfully rude, and it wasn't intentional. Don't worry about it, Cornelia. I'm sure Verity won't mind. Verity? That's strange. I didn't think that was her name. At any rate, I must thank Miss Verity for her kindness. Sharing one's identity with someone else is quite a gesture. It might be to other people, but it isn't to me. I already know what it feels like to share my identity with somebody else. I've been living my whole life in Amelia Miller's shadow. Compared to that, a little light possession is nothing. This outfit is hardly appropriate, though. Cornelia flushes, tugging at the hem of my school skirt. There's rather too much leg on display, and what about the wind? I'm surprised the girls of today don't catch their death of cold. You sound like a crotchety old lady, Cornelia. I am an old lady, and you are too. Stop trying to act cute. Emmeline giggles, peering up at Cornelia with that familiar mischievous grin. It's the same grin she wore 150 years past, during the lazy summer days by the lake, when she would press kisses against Cornelia's lip and recite snatches of misremembered poetry to her. But you still blush like a fair maiden, Cornelia. You didn't change at all. And neither did you, Emmy, though I hoped that you might. That attitude of yours was always so unseemly, Mother agreed. Beatrice Linden wouldn't know what fun was if it smacked her across the face. My mother was a very commendable person. She might have been a little strict, but she was not without her good points. She was awfully upset when she heard what had happened to you, Emmy. Yes, what had happened to poor little Emmy. And you, Cornelia, did you miss me too? Do you really need to ask that question? I just want to make sure. I know you cried a good deal, and that upset me, but I don't know. I want you to move on and be happy. I really truly did, but at the same time, I was also scared and jealous too. You really were my first love. I suppose you were my last love too, and all of the loves that could have come in between. I just don't want to be replaced. You're my one and only, and I want to be the same for you. I know you lived a lot longer than I did, and I know I'm being selfish, but when I think about you loving somebody other than me, it hurts. It hurts so much I can hardly stand it. Emmy. Emmeline's shoulders shake, and though her eyes are devoid of tears, maybe crying is a luxury not afforded to ghosts, I'm sure she would be weeping if she could. She looks fragile, like a single push might shatter every single bone in her body. Is that why she avoided Cornelia? Though she desperately wanted to see how she was it because she was afraid? But she can't run away now, not anymore. Cornelia takes a few steps forward, slow and stumbling in her unfamiliar body. When she reaches Emmeline, she links her hands and squeezes gently. Emmeline giggles, wiping stray tears that have never had a chance to fall from the corner of her eyes. Well, this certainly is new. We never have been so bold in the past, Emily. Perhaps not, but I've grown up. I've lived a long life. 73 years, was it? A nod. 73 years. It is an awfully long time to remain obsessed with a skinny young girl who snapped kisses from me in the summer, is it not? Indeed. It's an awfully long time, and yet despite that, I was never able to forget you. It would be impossible even if I wanted to. Cornelia? Cornelia bows her head, perhaps in an attempt to hide her threatening blush, but it does no good. She always used a blusher on Emmeline, and that hasn't changed. I got married when I was 18. It was a match my mother arranged. She was always so officious, so organized, so practical. I wonder why your father did not ask her for advice during the stock market crash. She could have helped. I think he would have been too embarrassed. It was all Grandmother Patience's fault. She was not a particularly nice woman by all accounts. That really is sad. It could have been avoided all so easily. That's what I think too. Such thoughts do not do us much good now, though. No, I supposedly not. So what about your beau? Emmeline attempts to smile, though it looks forced, slightly strained at the edges. Was he a good looker, Cornelia? Did he sweep you off your feet, just like a prince in the fairy tale? Of course not. He was a match to my mother chose for me. Do you think she would pair her dear daughter with a feckless sot? So he was sensible, was he? Very sensible. He was twice my age, and he was already starting to lose his hair, but he was rich and had land and could afford to look after me. To my mother, that was the most important thing. And not your happiness? According to my mother, money is the root of all happiness. I would like to disagree, but... Emmeline looks down at herself, smiling sadly. Given money can be blamed for the sorry state of affairs my family found themselves in, perhaps there is a germ of truth to that. Perhaps. And I was happy with him, in a sense. You loved him? No, I did not love him. He was too old, and we were too dissimilar. We did not have a single thing in common. Fortunately, he was not unkind, and that is more than can be said for some men, I suppose. Oh, I'm sorry, Cornelia. You don't need to be sorry. I may not have been happy, but I was not unhappy. My life was rather comfortable, all things considered. But you did not forget about me? No, I did not. I could not. You really did mean the world back to me back then, Emmy. And I love you with all my heart. Only back then? Well, even now, I still care for you. I never stopped caring. I just had to stop remembering. Oh, Cornelia, if my heart had not been stopped, I'm sure it would have skipped a beat. And now my own heart is pounding rather uncomfortably, though it does not truly belong to me. I hope I'm not causing this young girl any undue strain. You always did worry too much, Nellie. You used to be so scared that your mother would find out about us. You still let me kiss you, though. Yes, I was scared, but I'm glad for the time we spent together. Had I known it would be cut short, I would have confessed to you sooner. Say, Cornelia? Yes, what is it? I'm afraid I must ask, for curiosity compels me to do so. Was I a better kisser than your husband? Well, it's fine if you cannot answer. It was quite some time since we last kissed one another. Perhaps you need to refresh your memory. I do not think I would be entirely averse to that. Well then, shall we? My heart pounds, or is it Cornelia's? Perhaps it belongs to both of us. Though she has been dead some 150 years, Emmeline's lips are soft and warm, sweet and gentle, filled with a deep sense of yearning. I wonder how long Emmeline has wanted to kiss Cornelia, how long she has been sleeping in this graveyard, dreaming unfulfilled dreams of a time gone by, when she was young and happy and very much alive. Maybe she thought her dreams would never come true. That was why she consigned herself to dreaming, and did not wake from her sleepy stupor, a ghostly girl, isolated from the rest of the world. But now she has finally managed to make her dream come true. Is there any reason for her to haunt this graveyard further? Surely all of her regrets have been wiped away, like the spring sunshine melting the winter snow. She may never understand her dad's motivation for committing such a terrible crime, but I doubt that was the real regret that kept her body tied to this earth. Instead, it was Cornelia. For Emmeline, it was always Cornelia. Emmy, you'll come back with me this time, won't you? I have been lonely without you. What? I thought you would have been enjoying the peace and quiet. You always did say I was a nuisance. You may have bothered me, but I did not mind the attention, though I enjoy the calm that can be rather dull at times. And I must go with you, without delay. I would never want you to feel like you had been abandoned. That would be far too sad. Yes, I will be waiting. I have encroached upon this girl's body for far too long, and I should give it back. It would be the proper thing to do. You always did care about the proper thing, Nellie. Evidently not enough, not when it comes to you. Mother will be so surprised when she learns. I look forward to seeing the expression on her face. I don't think I've ever seen Beatrice Linton surprised by anything before in my life. Yes, well, let's see how it goes, shall we? I would like that more than anything in the world. Cornelia smiles, taking Emmeline's hand in her own and squeezes. I will see you on the other side of me. Please do not tarry. It has already been far too long. And with that, I feel myself gradually regaining control of my body. My fingertips twitch, my eyelids blink, and I inhale the cool autumnal air almost greedily, like a drowning maiden resurfacing from the inky black water. My body belongs to me again, and only me. My identity, once subsumed among Cornelia's ego, like a moon orbiting the Earth, has finally been restored. I never realized it until now, but I really do have an identity of my own. I might be quiet, and I might be shy, and my classmates might call me weird, but that doesn't invalidate me as a person. Neither does the fact that Amelia Miller took my name, nor the fact that my dad left when I was still an embryo of my mom's womb. None of that matters. It's all irrelevant. It doesn't change the fact that I exist. I am alive. I am the product of all my ancestors before me, a whole string of successive relatives with their own stories to tell, and I have a story of my own. How could I throw my identity away? It may not fit me perfectly, but it's the only one I have. If I don't like it, all I need to do is create another. I have that power. Why did I never realize it before, until it was wrested away from me by a restless memory of a girl long since dead? The old sayings must be true. You never realize what you have until you lose it. Verity. Thank you for helping me. You have no idea how much it means to me. I really am glad that I met you, though I was never able to learn your name. My name? Is it? A name that belongs to me. I straightened my back, inhaled a lungful of air, and declared, My name is Toma Andrews. It's a pleasure to meet you, Emmeline. Toma? What a cute name. Cute? The only other person who says that is Hattie. Everyone else thinks it's weird. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Nellie will get jealous. I think it is a perfectly charming though. Why did you not wish to share with me? I'm not entirely sure. I was embarrassed. Embarrassed by your name? That's right. I think I've realized something. I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. Well, maybe I was able to teach you something too. That was another one of my dreams. Your dreams? Yes, I did so love English literature, and I would have enjoyed being a tutor. That might have been somewhat difficult given the period I lived in, but it seems times were starting to change. Emmeline looks down at my school skirt, and I feel myself flushing. Why is my skirt such a point of public interest? It isn't that short, is it? If Emmeline and Cornelia are scandalized by my skirt, they should see Emily Hargreaves. That would knock them unconscious. I hope you have a pleasant life, dear Toma. When the time comes, you have to tell me all about it. Don't worry, I will. I'll go on all sorts of adventures and I'll get some stories, real stories, to share with you. Can't wait. It seems like the next century is going to be very interesting indeed. And with a cheerful giggle, Emmeline's body begins to disappear from this world. I watch as she fades away until she becomes nothing more than a memory. I pinch my arm. It hurts. I guess this wasn't a dream after all. I really did meet a ghost called Emmeline Burns, and I really did meet my long-lost ancestor, Cornelia Linton. My mom would be so jealous. A silly smile rises to my lip despite myself, and I can't help but giggle. I don't know if my body has ever felt this light. I need to keep going forwards no matter what happens. I should try to be more like Emmeline, who didn't give up on her dreams even after she died. I could use some willpower like that. It's probably because of that strength of will that Cornelia fell in love with her. Who wouldn't? Despite her sad story, Emmeline Burns really is beautiful. I hope that I, Toma Andrews, a recovering victim of identity theft, can someday be as beautiful as her. It really is coming down fast. The sky overhead is a steely, slick gray, completely overcast with clouds. The rain falls down in an endless stream, beating mercilessly against the ground. This is just great. The curls are going to fall out of my hair. At least we were able to get to our shopping done before it started. I suppose so. It's so dreary, though. Hattie frowns, fiddling with one of her curls with the tip of her index finger. She must have spent a long time on those curls this morning. Hattie is something of a perfectionist, so she spends a long time on everything. Her handwriting is incredibly neat, an elegantly flowing script that wouldn't look out of place in an 18th century manuscript, but it takes her a small eternity to do all of her schoolwork. Sadly, the dampness in her atmosphere has taken a toll on her curls, and they no longer look as curly as they did a few hours ago. Hattie's hair has been deflating slowly through the day, but the sudden downpour must have been the last straw. It's alright, Hattie. I pause, shifting. Plastic benches cool beneath the exposed back of my thighs, and it bites through the thin fabric of my socks. I shiver. Maybe I should have worn something more season appropriate, but I didn't think it was going to rain this much. I didn't even bring an umbrella. I know it was foggy this morning, but it's been foggy every single morning these last 2 weeks, and it didn't rain then. I guess I was just unlucky. I still think it looks nice. You do? That's right. You're very pretty, you know. Hattie blinks. She looks a little perplexed, but only for a few moments. Where's this coming from? Do you feel guilty about the money? Oh no, it isn't like that, really. Well, I wonder. You don't need to feel indebted. I told you enough times, it's only £5. You can pay me back whenever, or you can keep quiet about it until I forget. Whatever works for you. I'd never do that. That's wrong. I'll pay you back no matter what, even if I have to sell off one of my kidneys. You'd go that far? If I could find anybody willing to make an offer. You're so devoted, like a puppy. This is why I don't mind lending you money. I trust you. Thank you. No, thank you. I didn't do anything to be thanked for, though. My mother always says honesty is the best policy. It should be the only policy. I wish everybody was as poor as you, Toma. Hattie's always lending me money. Her parents are a good deal richer than mine, and I think she feels kind of guilty about it. I appreciate it, but I wasn't talking about the money earlier. I want to pay her a genuine compliment because it's how I genuinely feel. I find it hard to express myself sometimes, though. I've been friends with Hattie since we were both in primary school. I'm still bad at expressing myself around her. Maybe that's because this last year or so I've begun to regard her as something more than just a friend. I wonder if it was inevitable. I mean, she's the only real friend I have. We all sit together in lunch, and we group together in PE, and we have sleepovers at each other's houses. Since I see so much of her, it might be natural that I start to like her like that. There isn't anybody else for me to get attached to. I'm too shy to talk to other people, so I don't have many choices. I know some of the girls in my class have crushes on celebrities, actors and singers, and sports stars, but I don't really understand that. How can you like somebody you've never even met? You don't even know anything about them. Hattie's the only person my age I feel particularly close to. There must be more to my feeling than that, though. Hattie's pretty, and she's kind, and she makes me laugh. She likes romance stories, and she's read Jane Eyre about 4 times. And she loves kitschy pieces, like those old-fashioned photography parlors where you get to wear ruffled dresses and act like Victorian ladies. She doesn't think it's weird that I like to spend time in graveyards. Maybe that's because her interests are similarly old-fashioned in a slightly different way. When Hattie learned I cut school last Friday because I was loitering in the cemetery, she just nodded her head and said, "That sounds like you, Toma." Hattie understands me. At least, I like to think she does. I hope I can understand her too, just a little bit. I wonder if that's what love is, understanding somebody else. That might be why I found it so hard to love myself. I had no idea who I was, only vague hopes about who I wanted to be. But that's in the past now. At least, I hope it is. You know, you've been acting a little off lately, Toma. Off? Hattie nods. Like, not in a bad way, just a bit different, that's all. Do you really think so? Yeah, I mean, you actually skipped school for one thing. I never would have expected it of a model student like you. My mother didn't expect it either. She was kind of mad about it. I don't really know why I did it. I just felt compelled. Like you heard some divine voice telling you to ditch school? No, not like that. It was more, I had a feeling. Not that I'm a psychic or anything. Or am I? Could I have mystical powers of some sort, given I was able to see and speak to a real ghost? I'm not sure. I feel like you've become a bit bolder, too. Bold? There's no way. I still get anxious when I have to order food in McDonald's. My hands start to shake and my voice gets all croaky. You think the cashier cared that much that you wanted apple pie? I don't think he cared about me at all, but it didn't make any difference. It's not logical. People rarely are. Shy people doubly so. I know this only too well, having been shy all my life. You still managed to order it for yourself, though. You usually ask me. Well, I thought I should rely on you all the time. I mean, you did lend me the money to buy those boots. I gave you a $5. It hardly broke the bank. That's another thing. You wanted those boots for months, but you never bought them. Why the sudden change of heart? I don't know. I thought if I want to do something, I should do it. Life's too short to waste it, wanting to do things, but being too worried. You never know when it might end, just like Emmeline's did, so unexpectedly. I think something I learned after meeting her. I think that's something I learned after meeting her. I was living my life like a shadow, always hiding myself away in corners, trying to draw as little attention to myself as possible. That's not how I want to live, though. That's not how Emmeline lived. even though she existed in a period where women were expected to shut up and behave. I need to try and be stronger, rather than wishing I was somebody else, but being too shy and scared and resigned to even try to change. I want to make an effort. I tried to recall Emmeline now, her soft curls, her softer lip, and the purple bruises that stood out starkly against her pale skin. But these attributes felt like little more than a list. They're not real to me anymore, as they once were, because I can't see them. I might never see them again. Not now that she's passed on to the other side, wherever that may be. You'd think seeing a ghost, then being possessed by her departed lover, would leave more of a lasting impression. I guess not. Life continues on. Even Emmeline and Cornelia, whose lives have ended, moved on. I need to keep going on too. I haven't told anybody about what I saw. Who would believe me? They'd all think I was delusional. I'm half tempted to believe what I saw might be a delusion too, were it not for the memories that still linger ghost-like at the back of my brain. My large lake at Linton's estate. The taste of raspberry lemonade in the long, luxurious summers. Fingers against my skin, running through my hair, tracing patterns against my collarbone. The sensation of my lips against my own, but they were not mine. They were Cornelia's, and these are her memories, and I have no business clinging on to them like this. But I can't help myself. When she possessed me, our beings merged. I hold within me all of what she did, in duplicate. Sepia tinted, yes, but they were there nonetheless. These borrowed memories are already starting to slip away piece by piece, dispersing into my dreams whenever I close my eyes at night, but they're not gone yet. If I close my eyes and wrinkle my brow, and concentrate as hard as I can bring these images to the forefront of my mind once more. I know what it feels like to be kissed on the forehead, the nose, the cheek, the neck, the lips of the girl I love, but I've never been kissed before, not truly. It makes me curious. What would it feel like? I glance at Hattie from beneath my lashes. She notices. I flush. Is there something wrong? Do I have something on my face? No, that's not it. I'm just thinking. Of what? A memory. Two young girls, drenched in the rain, startled by the sudden downpour. One of them laughed, delighted, the other sighs, wringing out her hair. They bickered back and forth until they appeared to reach some kind of truce, a cold embrace, with damp clothes and damp bodies. Fingers run through their hair, teasing out lank locks, brushing raindrops away from pale cheeks. Lips meet together, their mouths are hot. It's not my memory. It's not something I should be remembering. I should try to forget it, ignore it. But I can't. Hattie, Yes, what is it? I wasn't joking earlier. I really do think you're pretty, you know. You're being really sentimental today. You haven't been diagnosed with a terminal disease, have you? What? No. Why would you think that? Because you're being all impulsive lately, taking more chances. Isn't that what people do when they find out they're going to die soon? Or when they win the lottery? Hattie frowns. Hey, Toma, if you won the lottery and you haven't told me, I'd be really annoyed. I want those £5 back now, with interest. I start to laugh and give Hattie a small push. She almost overbalances, but she's able to right herself at the last moment. Of course I haven't won the lottery. I'm not even old enough to buy a ticket. And a terminal disease? No, I don't have a terminal disease. At least, I don't think I do. I frown, newly serious, my nose wrinkling. Is it really that weird I want to pay you a compliment? She isn't trying to brush me off because she's feeling awkward, is she? I don't want to make Hattie uncomfortable. She's one of my only friends. That's why I didn't tell her how I felt, even when I found myself thinking of her at odd moments and missing her when she wasn't around. I don't want her to abandon me. I still don't. But if it's Hattie, I should try to have more faith. I've never had any faith in myself, but she's remained my friend for almost a decade, longer than half my life. I don't think she'd like me any less if I told her how I felt. She might think it's a little strange, and she might not understand, but I don't really understand it either. Maybe I don't need to. I don't know if Emmeline and Cornelia did. Why does everything have to happen for a reason? Why can't things just happen? We humans think too much, all of us, so we become our own worst enemies, always planning and preparing, but never advancing. I'm tired of that. Spurred on by the memories of Emmeline and Cornelia, I'm able to gather my courage. It's still small and weak and there isn't much of it, but it's mine all the same, and it matters. I matter. My feelings matter. Hattie, I look at my lap, my face light pink. My voice sticks in my throat for a moment, but it's only for a moment. I don't want to back down now. I've liked you for a while, maybe for a few months or maybe longer, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I like you as more than a friend. And you might think this is strange, but, well, I'm sorry, I'm a strange person, so you should be used to it. There's a small silence broken only by the sound of falling rain. I can hear my heart beating inside my chest underneath my shirt. What does she think? What kind of expression is she making? I want to lift my head and see, but at the same time I'm scared. But I managed to confess. That doesn't mean I'm not afraid. I'm more afraid than ever. But it feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest, and that makes me think this was all worthwhile. Even if nothing else comes of this, I'm satisfied. I don't need anything more. That's what I try to tell myself, but these thoughts finish as soon as I feel a soft warm sensation envelop my right hand. Hattie? It's alright. I mean, I know you're strange, that's why I like you. You don't need to apologize for it. So does that mean you... Yeah, I like you too, Toma. You do? She nods. But you're always reading those old romance stories, so I thought you'd prefer Mr. Darcy or Mr. Rochester. I like romance stories because they're stories. Grumpy old men aren't my thing. Are girls much prettier? That's definitely true. I like girls more too. At least, I think I do. My words are wavering, unsure, but the pressure of Hattie's fingers around mine is comforting and helps to calm my heartbeat. I could get used to this. I want to make memories like this. Lots and lots of memories all my own, just for me. This confession might be a little understated. My emotions revealed at the grotty bus stop on the overcast days by rain, but that's alright with me. It's not like the love that blossomed between Cornelia and Emmeline on the summer days by the lake, sipping on raspberry lemonade, but why should it be? This is my life, and I'll live it like I want. The past is interesting, and I'm thankful for all my relatives who came before me, who made me who I am, but that is all they did. They shouldn't influence how I act as well. Anxious, shy, tentative, but nevertheless determined, I tip my head and press my lips against Hattie's. The rain around me continues to fall, drumming against the roof of the bus shelter. The two of us sit there silently sharing our first kiss, waiting for the bus that might never come. I hope it doesn't. I want this moment to last forever. I assume that's it. Oh, there's one more. What achievement did I not get? Emmeline reimagines a popular 19th century poet. Angel wings. I think I missed that the first time I saw that image. So that these 4 images. Oh no, there's one right here. Kind of exploring around the UI because I'm trying to figure out how you get that last achievement. Oh, extra scene. Sunlight streaming in through the open window, illuminating stray particles of dust as they dance through the air. The gilt-edged mirror on Emmeline's wall shimmered, the surface sparkling like the edge of a cut jewel. Emmeline lay on her bed, stretched out on her stomach, cat-like, kicking her legs highly back and forth in the air. Cornelia sat beside her, arms around her legs, knees under her chin, taking up a rather less space than Emmeline was. Cornelia was attempting to read the book, but Emmeline kept tugging and sighing and making such a fuss, Cornelia could not help but be distracted. What are you doing, Emmy? Oh, I'm supposed to be reading this. She gestured to a thick volume of poetry lying on the bed before her, hefty enough to knock a man's teeth out. But it's so tediously unspeakably dull, I fear I will go quite mad. Did Miss Warren tell you to read that? You mean Ellie? You still call her Ellie? I can call her what I please. She is under the employment of my father, and she should accept whatever name I see fit to give her. You, my dear Emmeline, are quite a piece of work. I feel terribly sorry for Miss Warren. You do not feel sorry for her. Feel sorry for me. I am the one who has been tasked to read this drivel. Though it is so boring, I would rather drive a rusty spike through my head. Cornelia shifted slightly on the bed, squeamish, and held one hand to her chest. Cornelia's complexion was always pale, yet it looked even paler now, like a cadaver's. Must you be so gruesome? I cannot help myself. The Gothic is very much in vogue right now. I believe that was back in the late 1790s. You're half a century too late to engage in this particular fashion trend, Emmy. Well, I wish I was reading Radcliffe's instead of this nonsense. Why should I care about leash gatherers of all people? The very notion that some people are so poor they must gather leeches to make a living is depressing enough, without reflecting upon it in verse form. Ah, Wordsworth, is it? Wordsworth indeed, and he uses rather too many words. I can't understand why, Ellie, nay, why all of England is so besotted with him. I wandered lonely as a cloud indeed. I don't understand why you dislike him so. I thought you liked poetry. I do like poetry, but this is not the sort of poetry I like. Do you not try to focus on the elements of his poetry you enjoy, rather than lingering on those which you despise? There's nothing about his poetry I enjoy, Nellie. I cannot stand all the moralizing about poor people. I wonder how often our genial friend Mr. Wordsworth mingled with leech gatherers and country pastors. Ha! Emmeline snorted in a manner that was not entirely dissimilar to a horse, and slammed her collected works of William Wordsworth shut. She slammed it with such force she very nearly sliced off her finger, but was only able to withdraw her vulnerable digits at the very last second. I cannot be doing with all this nonsense, not on such a lovely day. I would much rather experience nature with my own senses than read it within these dusty pages written by a dusty old man. But what of Miss Warren? She will scold you if you don't finish your reading. Why should I care what that old spinster thinks? She likes William Wordsworth. A lot of people like William Wordsworth. He was the poet laureate. A lot of people are awfully stupid then. You should not speak ill of him like that. He was a great man, and he died only 1 year hence. It is rather too soon to insult him. We've not even given his body a chance to cool yet. Cold or not, I doubt he will care very much about what I think now. Being dead has a tendency to curtail one's ability to care about such things. Say what you will, but I don't think it's appropriate. You don't think anything is appropriate, Nellie. It is a wonder you let me kiss you as I do. Giggling mischievously, Emmeline sat herself up and pressed an unexpected kiss against Cornelia's neck. Ah! Cornelia twitched her eyelashes, fluttering. Are you a vampire, Emily? Perhaps. I feel I get along far better with Lord Byron's verses than Mr. Wordsworth's at any rate. If only Wordsworth had written of vampires, then you might pay attention. Indeed, it would be more interesting. Not as interesting as this, however. Emmy, you will leave bruises if you kiss me like that. And yet, despite Cornelia's feeble protestation, she found herself inclining her head, giving Emmeline further access to the white landscape of skin that made up her neck, her collarbone, and the parts of her chest that were not obscured by the light pink fabric of her dress. Emmeline giggled devilishly, pressing yet another kiss against Cornelia's neck, lower down this time. You say that, but I know you do not truly mind. I may not mind, but my mother. Ah yes, how could I forget the venerable Mrs. Linton? If your mother caught you with bruises on your fair neck, she might grow rather suspicious. That is what I was thinking. Though Emmeline was no longer kissing Cornelia, Cornelia's voice escaped from her lips in a soft gasp, lighter than usual, the syllables strung together with stutters, her heart pounding far too fast, dyeing her cheeks dark crimson. Inwardly, Cornelia scolded herself. She was just like those silly swooning girl women in books penned by men. Pamela, in particular, sprung to mind, who fell to pieces at the sight of their lords. Her mother had not raised her to be like this, setting the fact that Emmeline was another girl aside, which was a rather important fact, but one that Cornelia did not care to examine. Cornelia knew her own conduct was nothing short of shameful. She could hardly breathe, and her heart felt as though it were beating inside her mouth. No matter how she tried, she could not gather her composure. Emmeline had a most curious effect upon her. Much like a drug, Cornelia was a little better than a helpless opium addict, hardly able to function without Emmeline's kisses and caresses. Yet Cornelia would not have changed her relationship with Emmeline for the world. Your mother might even suspect you have been engaging in dalliances with that awful Wedgwood boy. Not Aubrey Wedgwood. The one and the same, unless you thought I was referring to his father. Emmeline, Mr. Wedgwood is in his 50s. The idea is preposterous. It's not so very preposterous. We're nearing the age where we ourselves should get married, you know. It's not uncommon for girls our age to marry gentlemen in their twilight years. I would rather not. Not to Aubrey Wedgwood, and certainly not to his father. I would rather die. I'm so glad to hear you say that. The feeling is quite mutual. I don't know why you had to ask to begin with. Should my feelings not be obvious? What do you mean? I mean I am well. Cornelia looked down at her lap, linking her fingers together. Even though this may make me less of a woman, or at least not the woman my parents wish me to be, I cannot bring myself to care. You are the one that I love, Emmy. Your virulent hatred of Mr. Wordsworth aside, I do not want to think about getting married to a man. I do not even want to contemplate it. Ah. Emmeline blinked for a few moments, momentarily surprised by Cornelia's sudden burst of honesty. The surprise soon wore away, however, to be replaced with a gentle smile. I feel quite the same. I do not even care if I am an old spinster like poor Ellie. I just want to be with you, no matter what. The next day. What are you doing, Emmy? Drawing? Drawing? I thought you were supposed to be reading more of Mr. Wordsworth's poetry. I attempted to do so, but it was so very dull, and that was when I had this excellent idea. Yes? Cornelia's frown deepened, and she folded her arms. Though she did not want to question Emmeline, she did wonder, as she always did when Emmeline claimed to have struck upon an excellent idea, just how excellent this idea really was. The last time Emmeline had been bestowed with an excellent idea, she had hidden a giant slug in the pocket of the long-suffering Miss Warren's overcoat, and the poor woman had shrieked loudly enough upon this discovery to rouse even William Wordsworth from his grave in Grasmere. You see, I simply remembered what you told me earlier, my dear Nellie. And what was that? You told me to try and find something in Mr. Wordsworth's poem that I found interesting. And did you? Of course not. I already told you I cannot stand his works. There is one thing in this world, however, that I cherish above all else. What is that? Why, it is beautiful women, of course. Cornelia blinked. What was going on? Where was this going exactly? Though she had been close companions with Emmeline throughout the last 14, almost 15 years, she could not profess to possess full understanding of the inner workings of the other girl's mind. Perhaps not even Emmeline herself understood such things, given she always seemed to flit from fancy to fancy, restless like a bumblebee in the spring. I am well aware that you like beautiful women, but I fail to see how that relates to the esteemed Mr. Wordsworth. Why, Nellie, you're being awfully dense today. It is simple, it's self-explanatory, really. It is? Yes, I see now. In order to truly appreciate Mr. Wordsworth's work, I should reimagine him to put himself into a form more suited to my desires. That is, I should imagine his body of poetry came not from the hand of a pompous and self-obsessed old git with a big nose, but from a young and beautiful woman. Look, look. Emmeline, beatific in her excitement, showed Cornelia one of the quick sketches she had been working on. Cornelia took the sketch, the furrow in her brow deepening as she did so. There displayed on the white page was a young and beautiful woman. Her hair fell about her shoulders in a manner any young romantic would surely have appreciated, and she wore a loose dress that was rather... Why is it so short? Oh, Cornelia, it is just a fantasy. Do not trouble yourself too much with the details, and I made more sketches too. More? Of course, after I designed Mr. Wordsworth, I realized that my current landscape of British poetry could use a touch more feminine charm, and I took it upon myself to beautify all of the romantic poets that our country cares for so greatly. Apart from Keats, of course. He did not live long enough to warrant a new design as far as I am concerned. Of course. Cornelia flipped through Emmeline's array of worrying sketches, her left eye twitching. Emmeline, you really do have a one-track mind. Is that it? I think that was 100%. Yeah. Well, that was the sad story of Emmeline Burns. Yeah, 100%. I think I'm gonna call it a night for tonight. It was a fun story. I mean, I'm not super into visual novels. I thought maybe someone, like I mentioned to Challenge Realize, sometimes in visual novels you do have some choice to some control over the story. You can navigate the plot a little bit. Apparently this wasn't one of those. This was a literal novel, just a straight line from start to finish. But it was a fun story. There were some touching moments in it. So yeah, so I think that's gonna be it for me tonight. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.